It'll be 225. State your name and occupation, please. My name is David Brown, and I am a deputy sheriff for this county. What was your occupation on September 11? Yes, it was. Where were you during the early morning hours? At that time, I was patrolling the highways on the south side of the city. While were you on patrol, deputy, did you receive a call on your radio about a robbery? Yes, I did. The dispatcher called at 9 o'clock. He said that two men in a car had stopped to pick up a hitchhiker. They then robbed the hitchhiker of some money and some personal items. Did the dispatcher indicate when and where this robbery had occurred? He said that it occurred on the interstate east of the city and that it occurred about an hour earlier. The hitchhiker had been left stranded on the interstate, which is the reason he could not telephone us sooner. Were you patrolling on the interstate at that time? Yes, I was. Approximately how far from the scene of the robbery were you when the dispatcher called? It was approximately 15 miles. Did the dispatcher give you a description of the car in question? Yes, he did. He said that it was a green Ford with temporary plates, and he said that it was occupied by two males. Did he tell you what the two men had taken from the hitchhiker? The hitchhiker reported that they had taken $10 and some camping items, including a backpack. The hitchhiker said that the backpack had some clothing and tools in it, and he described those items in detail. After you received that call, did you see an automobile that matched the description? Yes, sir, I saw an automobile entering the city, and I stopped it at that time. What kind of a vehicle was it? It was a green Ford with temporary plates. How many people were in it? Two males. Tell the court what happened. First, I identified myself, and then I informed them why I had stopped them. I asked the operator for his driver's license. However, he could not produce one. I then made both of them aware of their constitutional rights. Tell the judge what constitutional rights you are referring to. I advised them that they had a right to remain silent and that they had a right to an attorney. I carry a card that I refer to whenever I place an individual under arrest. Are those the only rights you gave them? Their legal rights are also printed on the citation. Do you have that printed card with you today? No, I don't. Can you tell me exactly what the printed card indicates? Well, I can't quote the constitutional rights exactly. As I remember, it declares that they have a right to remain silent and that they have a right to an attorney. Does it indicate anything else? Yes, it does. What else does it say? It goes on to say that if they cannot afford an attorney, one will be appointed for them at state expense. Can you remember anything else? It also states that anything they say can and will be used against them. I then asked them whether they completely understood those rights. Do you see the driver in the courtroom today? Yes, I do. He is the defendant in these proceedings. What is he wearing? He is wearing a red shirt. You testified that the defendant had no driver's license. Is that correct? That is correct. Did you arrest him for driving without a license? Yes, I did. I also gave him a citation for driving while he was under the influence of an intoxicant. When you first stopped the defendant and the other suspect, did you inform them that the hitchhiker had been robbed? Yes, I did. All right, after you informed them of their rights, did either of them make a statement? They stated that they did not rob the hitchhiker. They admitted that they had offered the hitchhiker a ride, but that there was no robbery committed. Was there any further conversation? One of the men opened the trunk and produced a revolver. He indicated that it was not loaded and that it had not been fired. Did either suspect say anything else? I saw a backpack in the rear seat, and I mentioned that it might be the one they took from the hitchhiker. The defendant said it was not. After all of this transpired, Deputy, what did you do? I took them into custody and transported them to the sheriff's department. What happened to their vehicle? First, I took an inventory of everything in the car, then I locked it and called a garage. After that, a truck came and towed the car away. As I understand it, you arrested the defendant for operating while he was under the influence. That's correct. However, he was very rowdy, and it was hard to get a breath test from him. When we went before the magistrate later, the charge was amended to driving after his license had been revoked. What about the other suspect? Was he drunk too? The other suspect was not quite as bad, but he did use a lot of profanity. Was he also wanted in another county for armed robbery? Yes, he was. Both men were wanted for armed robbery in the adjoining county. After you booked them, did you impound the car? Yes, I did. Why did you inventory the contents? That's just standard procedure. Some defendants claim that the people from the garage take items from their cars. So this is the reason that you inventoried the car? Yes, sir, it's just a precaution. When you inventoried the automobile, what did you observe in the trunk? In addition to the revolver that I alluded to before, there was a set of license plates. They were lying on the floor of the trunk. Did you have any trouble observing them? No trouble at all. They were in plain view. What did you do then? I asked the dispatcher to use his computer to check with the National Crime Information Center. I wanted to ascertain whether or not any warrants had been issued for those plates or whether they had been stolen. What did the dispatcher find out? The dispatcher found out that a car with those license plates had been involved in a shooting. He then phoned the information center because he wanted to confirm the facts. After that, he called me. In any case, sir, when you took these two men into custody, it related to the victim's complaint and to the traffic charges. That's correct. What else can you tell us? Officer, would you state your name for the record? Peter White. Officer White, may I call your attention to the morning of April 6th between the hours of 5 and 6 and ask you if you received a radio call directing you to an address known as 267 South Maple Avenue in this city? Yes, I did. Would you please relate to the court what happened or what you did as a result of that radio communication? But before you do that, allow me to inquire whether you were in uniform at that time. I was in full uniform, and I was assigned to the Radio Motor Patrol. Were you assigned to a patrol unit? I was assigned to a Radio Motor Patrol car. And tell the court, sir, exactly what you did and who you saw at that time and place. I responded to the rear of the address at 267 South Maple Avenue. I positioned myself on the fire escape of an adjacent building in between the third and fourth floors where I could observe that address, which is Anderson's Cleaners. Then what did you observe, officer? I observed an opening in the slanted roof, and I observed a female come up through that hole. I then saw her reach back down into that opening and remove several bundles of clothing. They were wrapped in plastic wrappers, the kind that cleaning establishments use. Where did this female defendant place those items? She placed them inside the stairwell. At this point, I ordered her to position herself where I could clearly observe her and to lie flat on the roof. Did you have your service pistol drawn, officer? Yes, I had it drawn. The female defendant at this particular time was lying flat on the floor. Then I saw another individual who was known to me as Michael Hill. He poked his head out of the opening and started to go back down. I immediately shouted to him. I said, Michael, come on out. Did you know this gentleman? I have known him for several years from the neighborhood where I patrol. You said that these items of clothing were wrapped in plastic bags. Is that correct? It's the plastic material that is used by cleaning establishments. You say that the defendant, Michael Hill, poked his head through the opening and you ordered him to come out. What happened next? He climbed out. I then ordered this defendant to lie down on the roof. There were other officers in different buildings adjoining the Cleaners. They shouted at me, inquiring what I had. I told them that I had two on the roof. Then what happened? Another officer arrived.